Hello, everybody. We're going to start the August 21st meeting of the Downtown Design Review Board meeting. Will the board and ex officio members please introduce themselves?
Cameron Bolin, AIA representative.
Perry Childress, East Tennessee Community Design Center.
Rick Blackburn, Historic Zoning Commission.
Matthew DeBard-Laban, Downtown Knoxville Alliance representative.
Laura Wen, Downtown Resident Representative.
Jared Worsham, Downtown Resident Representative.
Suzanne Taravella, Neighborhood Representative.
Lindsay Crockett, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Josh Wright, Urban Design Representative.
Tony Allen, Downtown Biz.
Dallas DeArmond, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Mark Reel, Plans Review and Inspections.
Thank you, everybody. The minutes of the July 17th board meeting are provided in the agenda packet. Are there any corrections or discussion?
This is a very minor thing, but I believe we met in the large assembly room and it notes the small assembly room. So I would just have that one correction.
I can correct that.
Sorry.
Anything else? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, Lindsay, can you give us a staff report, please?
Yes. So the level one or administrative COA issued since the last meeting is for a new secondary structure at 529 Atlantic Avenue. It will be located in the rear corner of the lot with a shed roof and composite siding. And that's it.
Thank you. Then we will move on down the agenda. First up, we have the project at 808 State Street. That is 8A24DT. Can you give us our overview, please?
Yes. So this is an exterior rehab project of an existing building and site work. So we can see the existing conditions of the building here. And then I'll just run through some of the exterior work. I'm going to start with the color here because it's a little bit easier to see. So on the facade, they are proposing to install a Corten metal panel system around the two central bays. It'll have a parapet that extends above the existing roof line with a new double hung ticket window and paired full light entry doors. On these leftmost bays, the existing windows will be repaired. And then new panels will be installed between them. On the rightmost bay, which was originally a garage entry, a multi-light fixed storefront system will be installed with additional metal paneling there. On the north elevation fronting Cumberland Avenue, they're proposing to install a new 17 feet by 36 feet 2 inches concrete patio with a covering of patio shade sails supported by wood posts. The patio will be accessed by two new full light French doors and an existing opening. There's also a new secondary door that's installed in the location of existing window on the towards the rear elevation. The additional work that's proposed for the building includes sandblasting the brick back to the red clay brick color, patching and painting existing windows on the rear, and then new fencing. The application also includes signage, which we can see here and here. It includes a 24.4 square feet anodized aluminum sign on the facade with backlit letters, and then a square marquee it'll be internally illuminated and feature changeable letters immediately below the business sign. Then you can see the site work on the property. There'll be a concrete slab in front of the right half of the building. It's currently grass and sidewalk, and then there will be landscaping on the left half of the facade. And the existing parking will remain. The spaces will be remarked. So in general, the exterior rehab scopes on the building meet the design guidelines. As y'all can remember, we've seen previous submissions for this building. The previous one included removing transparency from the facade because the stage was located closer to State Street, but this one adds transparency to the facade via a new multi-light garage door. It will further engage the street via a new ticket booth, full light doors, etc. There is a concrete patio on the Cumberland Avenue elevation that will add visual interest and pedestrian engagement to the building. Guidelines recommend that plazas be pedestrian friendly, have human scale amenities and landscaping, and that patio would incorporate that. One note about the sandblasting, this building does not have formal historic designation, so the historic resources section of the guidelines does not apply. However, it is a mid-century building, it has older brick materials. Sandblasting is typically discouraged as a method of removing paint from older bricks. It'll erode the surface of the brick, removing the protective surface, making it more susceptible to deterioration. So unless the applicant can provide information detailing a non-abrasive treatment of paint removal, sandblasting should be avoided. The signage will require a separate permit from the city. The application does include sufficient information for the board to review the proposed signs. They are proportionate to the wall areas where they'll be installed. The applicant should provide further information on the lighting included in the marquee sign. Signs that feature white internal illumination are often discouraged by the board and the guidelines. However, internal illumination may be appropriate for a marquee sign. So staff's recommending approval of 8A24DT subject to the conditions that final specs on the lighting be submitted to staff for approval, the site plan meet all standards of city engineering and the zoning code, and then omitting the sandblasting scope.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Hi, I'm Steve Young with OIS K3 Architects, and our office is at 1545 Western Avenue. So, any questions or?
Great. Yeah, we'll open it up to the board for discussion.
I will mention that we have come up with some alternate non-caustic, non-abrasive ways to strip the paint off it so we can get back to the natural brick color without being obnoxious to the environment or to the brick.
Great, thank you for that. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
That actually was going to be my first question was, what would you do if you weren't going to sandblast it, if it was just going to be painted? But is that something that they would still have to submit their method for paint removal to be able to address that comment, Lindsay?
Not necessarily. We have had some back and forth about it already, and
Okay.
they have provided some, I don't have that spec. They have provided a spec for a material that would remove the paint, and I can let you guys talk about that a little bit more. And I've also provided some suggestions.
Yeah, that's good, because I mean, the south elevation probably is I think you guys said it right elevation in the drawings, but the south that actually isn't included, yeah, the very bottom left one, and the actual existing image is pretty terrible, so it would need that holistic cleanup to address kind of the holistic, cleanup of the building. So I'd like to see the paint come off, because repainting it is also a detriment to masonry, just for the inherent qualities of how masonry wants to work. So that'd be great.
Like I said, we've come up with two alternatives that are eco-friendly and will work very effectively.
Okay.
One's a soybean base, and I can't remember what the other one is. But
Got it. Okay. I had a couple of questions. So on the front elevation, I guess that'd be the west. You have a note about mirror film. Does that?
that would be inside.
Okay.
And the reason for that is actually most of those windows open up into the bathrooms.
Okay.
So we don't want people to be able to look in to those bathrooms.
I guess my question is, does this project, is it required to have minimum transparency, and does mirror film meet transparency requirements?
There's no additions, so in order in order to be required to have design standards in Article 5, there has to be an addition that's at least 30%
Got it.
existing, so.
Not saying I want us to look in the bathroom. It's something I had never considered before, so it's good to know.
We would either put an opaque film or mirror, and the client wanted to do the mirror because
Mirror.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. On the new patio that you're putting out there, the rendering looks, the post is what I'm specifically talking about. It looks like it's metal or something like that painted, but you've got it called out as pressure treated.
Yes.
Is the whole assembly pressure treated?
Yes, the whole assembly's pressure treated wood and and then we're gonna put sailcloths going
Right.
this way and that way with different colors, kind of create.
There's something about the pressure treated that just seems unfinished for a downtown project. Was
Well,
there
it'll
any
be stained.
You will stain it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna be stained gray.
Something that's finished, good, okay, that's why you're rendering it as gray, is 'cause it's, okay, that's good. I just thinking the green pressure treated would look pretty residential almost out there at a city project. Let's see. The marquee sign, are we approving the signs today, or do we say we're gonna have to come back for that?
There is sufficient information
Right.
in this application for the board to approve the sign, and the recommendation was to approve it all, requesting just additional information on the lighting, the internal lighting to be submitted to staff for approval.
Right, and that's for the marquee sign? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really what my question was, is how would it be lit? Okay, that addresses it.
Yeah, if we don't internally light it, the letters won't show up at night.
Yeah, I get it.
Is there any other discussion?
Last question, on the back, I've seen this project probably 2 or 3 times, so that's why I've got many comments on it. It's had many iterations, which I'm sure you know of. The east elevation, what's the reasoning for the windows that have infill above them currently? Why those can't be reactivated to full height? Is it a ceiling plenum issue?
Excuse me. Right now, they're existing, the 2 outside windows are existing covered up.
Yeah.
With wood.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just gonna go back with our Core 10 metal over that wood and leave the bottom sash open, and probably on the inside, the 3 windows, we're gonna put a simulated stained glass window on the inside, and then on inside the performance platform, most of the time will be backed up to those windows.
Okay. Yeah, last question about Core 10 steel. Is it going to be actively weathering, or is it going to be sealed pre-weathered?
I'm sorry,
Is it going to be pre-weathered, or like actually in its rusted state, or is it going to actually be out there raw Core 10 and actually weathered?
It would be semi-pre-weathered. It would weather a little bit more, and I brought a sample if you want to see it.
I know that really my concern is the bleeding of the Core 10 onto concrete and to the driveways and things like that. That'll be inherent when it gets moisture on it. It'll start to, like, if you don't have a detail of how that touches the ground to relieve it from being in direct contact, well, it can be in direct contact with concrete, but it's gonna get the Core 10 stain on the concrete. So, which isn't a requirement of this approval, but I think you should look into potentially having like a stone skirt or something that allows it to dye into the concrete and not be in direct, because it's gonna stain it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It'll splash all over it and start to look unfinished at that point. I move to motion to approve per staff recommendations.
Second.
Just real quick, I want to just give the opportunity for anybody who is opposed to the project to come forward. Do we have any of that? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next project, which is 8B24DT. This is 555 West Jackson Avenue.
Okay, so this is the proposed replacement of 5 windows on the 5th story of the southeastern glass building. So you can see the windows that are proposed for replacement called out in red here. And they are so the proposed replacement windows are single light aluminum storefront windows with the surface applied muntins and rails that will be applied on the interior and exterior. So the applicant has provided a spec. What's on the right side of the screen is the previously approved window, and we can talk about that as well. The muntins and rails, the topmost ones will measure 3/4 of an inch, which reflects the existing There will be a 6-light casement window located in the lower half of the window, surrounded by muntins and rails that measure 3.5 inches wide. So the full replacement windows were approved by the board in March 2024. Final specs were submitted to staff in July 2024. The intent was to issue a blanket approval of one specific type of window, approving one that all windows that are replaced would match moving forward. The proposed windows differ from the previous approval primarily in operation and design. They feature a 6-light casement window instead of an awning window at the bottom. And the application notes that these windows on the 5th story are actually slightly larger than the previously approved specifications. So that's one of the elements that's driving this change. Guidelines recommend, just as a reminder, that if repairs are not possible, replace with matching, duplicating design, operation, material, glass size, muntin arrangements, profiles, and trim. The proposed replacement windows will vary in design and material, with the surface applied aluminum instead of the original steel, and then they're generally a little more flat than steel muntins. However, they will match the measurements of the approved one other than this operation of the casement versus the awning. So in the previous application, we did get a detail of the existing muntins. They are flat. They measure approximately 3/4 of an inch. And the proposed also match that. These 5th floor ones reflect those measurements other than this section. Overall, the variation in operation is not significantly different from the existing windows or the proposed spec featuring the awning windows. As you can see here, there's a slightly larger section in the middle as well. From the street level, these windows will be visually similar, and the applicant is in conversation with the HOA regarding using this casement product instead of the awning window, approved in March 2024. So staff's recommending approval of 8B24 DT as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Hi, I'm John Allen. I'm the owner of Unit 503 at Southeastern Glass Building.
Great, thank you. Do we have any board discussion?
I know this has been a difficult one that's been through us on the notion of replacing some windows and not others. And I know the background complexities to that. I don't know if there are any possibilities of including those last two on the 5th floor in this project so that all the windows on that floor at least are of the same design. I actually like the casement design better than the awning one.
Yeah, I talked to her that she's a new owner in those two windows. That's a separate unit, and this week, and that's a big number. She just bought the unit, so she's not going to commit right now.
Right.
But I reached out to her immediately when I knew, and she is an architect, so that'll be good. Hopefully she'll.
Hopefully when she sees yours, she'll say, well, I need to do this too.
I sent her this whole package, so.
Okay, thank you.
And everyone else, even on the 4th floor, the HOA is reaching out to everyone. I mean, it'd be beneficial to do them all, but we can't force anybody to replace their windows since it's a limited common element.
Is that the plan? I'm trying to remember what was approved, is that we're going to approve one, and that's going to be what will be proposed every time it's replaced, is to use that, what is approved by the DRB. So there's not a chance that a new version of this will come.
The windows on the other side of the building are on the right there, which are 5 wide, which those are actually larger. I think it was a little backwards on what she stated earlier. The windows that we have are a little smaller than the ones on the other side of the building. And it's going to be a little different design because you got 5 lights wide, so it can't really do a casement in the middle because the mutton's in the middle. So not in the middle on those. So they're looking into different things, but it could be just that they do exactly what they did before.
Well, what drove you all to change yours to the casement?
One element was cleaning. We're going to casement window open in, and we can access anywhere on the outside. Any projection window or a casement opening out, you can't get to it, and we're on the 5th floor, so it's very difficult, and they get dirty. We're right there off Broad Street, so that's one reason. And just the design, it's a cleaner smaller sight lines around the opening itself. Their window is like 4 inches around the operable window, and ours is a little over 3. They may be a little less than 3.5, I think. And actually on the rest, all the way around the window, it's a little smaller. So it's a nicer window, and it doesn't take up as much on the inside of the brick. As you can see, the reveal on the brick on the inside, the middle window there, the storefront windows on the right are like 4 inches thick. And this is 2 inches, I think, plus a little bit. Hunt's our window manufacturer, but he.
And Cameron, I think we've worked before. I represent Winco Windows. My name's Hunt Dixon, and I've been working with him on that. The biggest thing to note is on the right, that is storefront with a vent. So people call them windows, but it's not really a window. It's a storefront system. What we've entertained is an actual window. And these are windows that are designed to match historical steel sash windows. And they have the exact sight lines and buttons that fit. And so it just is a better product. The storefront too will only give you 8 PSF water, air. You're probably gonna have leak problems with that, where we're 15 PSF. And you just won't have those issues.
Does it have modern, it'll have insulated glazing and thermally broken? And,
absolutely.
Okay.
And sound is
and sound
to be on the
attenuation.
railroad tracks.
So we use a 1 inch, just the same as the storefront. We would use a 1 inch low E with either clear or tint, and I think clear is what we're doing on this one.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with the storefront visually from the outside, mixing and matching from my perspective on the other side of the building. We got so many angles on the building. I don't know if you'll be able to tell from a distance if there will be much of a difference. If they do, someone down the road, I mean, it could be 5 years, 10 years, it may not be. Hopefully there's a Winco. Hopefully there's still a storefront, but you know, you never know what the products are going to look like down the road. But hopefully they'll, from a distance, I think they'll.
My request and desire would be only that each individual facade have the same window. So if the ones on the Broadway side are different from the ones on the railroad track side, I don't see a particularly big issue as long as they're all similar in light and
You
scale.
can see there's a couple of small windows there, and those would probably just be, you know, the owner has the option there to make do one little casement or awning, or I think visually it'll look the same.
But I mean, that's what I really want to know is that true? Are we going to approve that it can just be a hodgepodge of whatever windows they want as long as it looks about the same? Or are we, what was the approval?
So if there was anything that's different from the previous approval, it would come back in front of the board.
Okay, so every time it's gonna come back.
Yep.
So every time someone does okay, that's what, as long as we.
First is important.
Yeah.
Got it. Is it possible for a note to be put into the motion so that when a board 5 years looks at this, they can hear Perry's point?
I think that we could definitely include that in the minutes.
Just to clarify, nobody has installed the window that was previously approved yet. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
And I don't know of anyone that's planning to yet. We're hoping to get more on board, and Ida was here before and she's looking at these windows and trying to figure out a configuration for their side of the building, the 5 light one. So they'll probably just have to come through this process again.
I think the motion should be made, I'll make it, that this new design replaces the accepted old design, so that the old design is no longer approved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Lindsay, a thought occurs. Should we, in terms of the clarity for the minutes and the approved agenda, should we do a motion to reconsider the prior application? That way it's completely withdrawn and the board's intent is
Yeah.
clear?
Sure. So do you want to give that guidance to one of them?
Yeah, I think, yeah, instead of the motion to approve per staff recommendation right now, what we should do is a motion to reconsider
It's
2B 24 DT and set that approval aside first, take a vote on that, and then proceed with the motion here today, so.
I have a question about that. Since it's a different applicant and the previous applicant assumes that their project was approved, does that matter?
Lindsay, is that, I guess I'm not aware of what the history's been between the applicants changing.
I guess two things. There hasn't been a precedent for something like that that I'm aware of. The only other element that I would have concern about is that right now we have one spec for one size of windows in front of us. And the previous approval had like type A, type B for all of the different sizes of windows. So that would also be my concern.
Just to let you know, and I'm sorry to butt in, there's 20 windows just like the ones that I have, and there's 8 of the larger type, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 8.
And if I might add, I've told them that I would be happy to design those, every window, and have been to the project several times. We make like windows for the different sizes by manipulating where the grids are, and maybe the casement grows a little or shrinks just a little, just to give it an equal appearance and match.
I would be uncomfortable disapproving a previously approved application without that applicant being here.
I think that's.
But I think that window looks great.
No, I think that's a fair point with the applicants being different. Mm-hmm. So, I think moving forward, I mean, within this scope of the application, obviously we can do a motion to approve per staff recommendation, but we may want to reach out to the HOA and let them know about this approval and how that could affect later applicant submissions.
And also just to clarify, even if somebody's gonna install this previously approved window, they would still have to come back here to do that.
Well, under the motion to reconsider, yes. Under the motion, if the motion to reconsider the previous decision and then they wanted to go back to the previous approval, then I guess, yes, they would.
But as it is now, the previous applicant that got that first one approved, they could go ahead and do that window without
Correct.
seeing us again.
Correct.
Okay.
Would not occur on the same elevation as these windows.
Correct.
Is there a window in the previous application that of this size that's being applied for today? And is there a way to just reconsider that one window if an applicant were to want to replace their window in another unit?
Technically, it's not because they missized it, but it was for these windows. Our window's a little smaller than what they had in the application, but it was for these windows, so. We will get in contact with the HOA immediately. I mean, we've been in contact with them. Hunt's been talking to them, and we're trying to get them to add on to our project. So, and she seemed receptive, the owner of, and the HOA president seemed receptive to do their two on the other side of the building, the Balter Beer Works side, which is the wider window. So.
Has there been discussion to alter your HOA documents to basically any other units that replace windows that have already been replaced to use the same window?
I think that was the purpose of the previous submittal, was to get a uniform replacement, because they knew we were looking to replace our windows, and they didn't want just anybody to put anything in there.
Right.
So we weren't going to do that, but that doesn't mean the next person wouldn't. So that's the reason they tried to come up with something that was affordable and that people might want, and they wanted everybody to replace them if they could. because there's other issues with the building, around the windows and some brick issues that I'd like to do all at the same time, but money is an issue as always, so it's hard to get everybody on board.
Just for discussion purposes, do you think it's feasible to have a comprehensive window replacement plan using this new product?
I think they would be up for that. I personally, just being an owner, I wouldn't want to be held to a specific, close your ears, to a specific, contractor or window company, but like mutton widths and color and style could be written out pretty simple, I think. Just no more than 3.5 inches around the operable window and major dividers, and then the 3¼ inch muttons. And I think that's really all you're looking for, right, in the grid pattern.
Yeah, I think that what we're looking for is consistency around the building and
Right.
something that's comprehensive and honors the character of the building. And so the hodgepodge that could come from this is, I think, our worry.
Right. We tried to mimic the center portion being the operable window. It's a little more expensive to do it that way, but that's, it makes it look better, I think.
One question that came up for me, so in the previous submission, I can't remember the discussion around this, but the color of the window, I can't remember if the board discussed the color, but this submission looks like it would be black, which would differ from what's already there.
Yes. So,
am I seeing that?
one of the general ones is that color is not typically in the board's purview, just considering that paint may or may, and most applications could be changed or removed. I think they talked about, I feel like Ms. Randall, the previous applicant, did talk about black. And we had a whole conversation about how that would differ from the ones that were existing, but it's difficult to replicate that like sort of rust tan color. So.
Yeah, she revised that, and I revised the document for you to dark bronze, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what the HOA recommends for us to do. We don't, it's whatever for us. We'll make them white or whatever color.
These are aluminum windows, right?
Yes.
And is it a paint finish or is it a different finish?
What we have gone with is black anodized. That's what I've done at the universities. It could be black paint, 70% Kynar, either or, but that is black. Anodized is what we're running with at the moment.
Bronze. It's
Or,
dark
I'm
bronze.
sorry, dark bronze anodized, which you can't tell the difference between black and it.
It's really close.
Josh, I think you made an excellent point, and I don't know what we do to resolve that. About the first.
Yeah, I concur. It's just against good ethics to reverse a vote without the applicant here. Josh is right. So given that we can't do that and we're not going to do that, we just need to look at the issue in front of us today.
So another point of clarification, if anybody else came along who wanted to replace their windows with this new version, would they come before us?
Yes.
So anytime it differs from the original approval.
Yes. Yeah, and this
Like I
one's,
said, there's 20 windows that are just like this. Would those owners have to come through the board?
I do think the board would have the purview to approve this for windows of the exact same size. I think that's appropriate. Then there's two options.
As far as, and Lindsay, you mean that being a blanket approval moving forward?
Well, I think the applicant can see that we would be happy to approve this window. There's just some complexity about this different application. Would you think it's appropriate to go back and organize that with the HOA and then come back and we can get it approved, and we could even maybe do staff approval at that level?
Sure. So conditional upon the HOA revising their submittal
Something like that, maybe.
to a specification instead of a product. Or,
And I'm happy, I'm not the only company that does these windows, so I'm happy to provide 3 or 4 companies that would do it so that you have competition. It's only fair.
To be clear, we're approving the design, not the product. So as long as it matches in form, scale, division, material, color, and all that, then I feel like that's acceptable. So we do have a motion in a second.
Yeah.
We have to take care of that first.
And you did mention that the applicant who came previously, she is interested in this newer,
Yes, we're in conversation.
okay,
And I'm actually helping her with her windows also.
okay. So we had, yeah.
So do you want to alter your motion, or do you?
I think I'd like to offer a different version of that motion, possibly. And that is that we proceed with per staff approval for the new proposed window. And we ask that you all confirm with the previous applicant that in a month, we can make a motion to remove the previous design.
And replace it with one that matches this.
Yeah, and that you just communicate with Lindsay on that.
Well, so is your approval contingent on that being resolved next month?
No,
So then,
because we could
is there no
still,
teeth?
we could
there?
split the teeth is next month. We could do it without the applicant here if we wanted to. I don't know how else to not
Doesn't
slow
have
them
to
down.
apply again.
I don't know how else to not slow them down, but
That's not our requirement there.
what's that?
I think they could get together and collaborate.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think we can, just next month be like, well, you guys have to come back before us because we're reconsidering this.
We're not asking them to come back before us. We're asking them to communicate with Lindsay so that we can know.
And the only risk would be we wind up with a different window on a different facade. So we'll have two approved in the interim if they don't resolve with the other applicant. Does not each owner have to get a permit to replace their own windows? So every owner has to come before us before they replace any windows. And so if anyone else comes up on their facade, this is the window we approve. If by some other instance, the other applicant goes ahead with the one we approved previously, anyone else coming up on her facade has to do her window. So I think that we continue to have control over individual facades, uniformity, even if they don't get cooperation with the previous applicant.
Do you want to tidy up your motion?
Sure. I would like to make a motion to proceed per staff recommendation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any opposition that we haven't heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we're going to see 8C24DT. That's the property at 501 East Hill Avenue.
Okay, these are new wall signs on the building's east and south elevations, along with another wall sign on the retaining wall near the southwest corner of the property. Each sign has individually mounted channel letters with vinyl facing, aluminum backs, and internal white LED illumination. The east elevation sign is 40 feet wide by 19 feet 6 inches tall overall. It'll be located on the upper stories of the right concrete area. The south elevation sign will be located on the tower area, and then you can see the retaining wall sign on the right here. That one is aluminum letters and non-illuminated. So the proposed signage meets the guidelines as wall signs mounted flush to the building's facade and monument signs. They're proportionate to the elevations on which they'll be installed in the buildings overall. The application does have white LED internal illumination on the building signs. The property is not subject to the guideline that discourages that illumination. The signs are large in size, and bright white illuminated signage could be challenging in the surrounding area. The applicant should provide further information on the color and tones of that. I see that here in this night view. You can see it being white, so that's that detail there. So staff's recommending approval of 8C 24DT subject to the condition that the applicant provide further information on the color and tone of the white internal illumination for staff for review.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Hi, I'm Pat Bowles. My address is 2113 Pewter Drive here in Knoxville.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
I guess I brought a sample. It is not technically a bright white. We're putting what they call day-night vinyl, just finely perforated black vinyl. It's really a very muted white. It is white. It's really kind of a gray, to be honest with you, but it's very muted. It's not one that's gonna cast the light, a block down or anything along those lines. I think the closest you'll ever get to it's probably 150 feet. So it's, obviously the farther away you get, the more dim it will be. So, but this is how the letters are constructed and will be made. They will have a black face, but just white dots to give just a little bit of illumination.
Thank you for that. Does the board have any discussion? Is there anyone opposed?
I did have one comment. When you look back at some of the renderings of this project previously, they had a public art basically on that side. The entire facade was going to be painted. Do you have any comment on if that's still taking place?
This is all I have.
Yeah, I didn't figure you had an answer to that.
No.
I'm just imagining that black letter on a multicolored. Anyway, it's going to look different aesthetically, but I guess we're here just to discuss.
Oh, I saw what you were talking about, but I don't know that they're doing that or not, especially on this side. I think that might be on the east side, above the parking garage.
Okay.
But that's just going off of probably what you saw.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Is the at Knoxville part of that illuminated as well?
It is.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I move to approve per staff recommendation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool letter. It looks black and yet it can light.
Okay, next up, we have 8D24DT. That is the property at 310 South Gay Street.
Okay, so this is the review of windows that were installed that don't meet the COA. So these are just related to the third and fourth stories, which are the ones that are on the screen. So as you can see here, they were originally 1/1 and then 2/2 double hung wood sash with a wood framing, a trim between the window sashes that extended all the way down. The scope of work under 8C22DT, which you can see here, included the windows being replaced with new custom-built sashes to match the existing, retaining the existing framing and details, including these like 2/2 windows here. And so paired double-hung windows have been installed in all of the fenestrations. The vertical trim elements were removed. The windows, which were originally a wider 2/2 double-hung window, now hold paired 1/1 double hung windows. So you can see those elements here, and then how they've been installed. So I detailed all of that. These were a Geldwin brand 1/1 double hung wood window, which did meet the previous approval. However, they do not replicate the muntin arrangements and trim of the historic windows, which were removed. Some of them don't reflect the windows themselves, which were removed. And then the adjoining double hung windows do not replicate the thicker articulated vertical trim which was originally present on these. And then the 2/2 double hung windows originally have been replaced with paired 1/1 double hung windows. Replicating that vertical trim may be difficult now that it has been removed. However, the replacement windows are a significant element of the building's visual character. The windows that are below this do match. Those were not modified, so they still have that vertical trim. The board should discuss any solutions to mitigate the inappropriate replacement windows, or approve the installed windows after the fact. So that's the staff recommendation, is just to discuss these or approve them after the fact.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Rowe, 601 Kempton Road here in Knoxville. I represent the owner. Joe Mayer is here as well. He's the contractor on the project, so if we have other questions, he can help answer. First, I want to apologize for my dress. I typically come to these meetings dressed more professionally. I had a longer day than I expected, so my apologies for that. The short version of this scenario is that our original intent was to do similar to what we did on the 5th floor and the 2nd floor, which is replace the glass that was in those sections. We ordered insulated glass to put back in those windows on the 3rd and 4th floors. Somewhere along the way of us beginning that installation, we were instructed by the building department to contact the review folks in Lindsay's office. We were instructed at that time that we needed to put in double hung windows, and which we were okay with. We went ahead, and so this is where the process fell apart. If you look on drawing 602, which I don't know if you have that here, Lindsay, but we took the sketch that we have there from the architects, and we basically scaled off that drawing and ordered windows from that. So we ordered windows in February of 22 or 23. It took us 4 months to get those windows. I'm sure many of you architects remember those times when it took us months to get windows. We installed those in June of 23, or in that summer. So that was how that mistake was made. We basically just scaled off these drawings, and you can see there things don't line up. You've got double hungs on both ends, so that's where the mistake was made. So obviously, what you all do is very important, and we understand that, and we're not happy that we have not followed through on what was expected. We're just coming to the board to show you what we did and why we did it, and see what you all believe the solution should be. Fortunately for us, we have all those homes sold on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors. We're actually moving folks in. We do have certificates of occupancy. The city plans review folks have been extremely helpful in getting through this project, but we have folks who are ready to move into those homes. They're aware of the situation. We've been very upfront with them and told them what's going on, and we're coming to you to determine what we need to do and take the next steps. So I'm happy to answer questions. Joe can answer any technical questions as well. So.
Thank you for that. We'll open it up to the board for discussion.
I have a request of Lindsay, if you can you pull up the current Google Street View? Because in that view, you can show us the right windows and the wrong windows together. And you can see the inconsistency. And another issue we have with this one is we are bound by the Secretary of Interior standards for historic preservation, because this is a contributing structure in a historic district. And that requires a greater level of accuracy. On the new windows, they no longer align with the transoms above them. You'll notice that originally the windows on either side were narrower, and then one in the center was wider. So you get this whole different rhythm to the original windows and the relationship of the windows to the historic transoms, in addition to the continuance of the divider piece that goes between the transoms continues between the windows. And that is such a significant deviation from the historic character, the original character, and the character that remains on this lower level that I've talked to lots of friends and other architects and contractors, and my feeling is they need to be replaced. The question then comes is whose fault is it? And I've looked real hard at the drawings submitted to plans review to say, did they allow you to do something they shouldn't have? Or did the window manufacturer say, well, that's close enough to the same size, we'll just make 3 that are alike. And that's easier. So that's not our job to figure out what happened. It's only to figure out what should happen, and this is not what was approved by the board. And somehow we have wound up in an unfortunate situation, but.
Understood.
That's sort of my dilemma with it, and then you add once again, here you can see on the right where the original 2/2 double hung is that was replaced by 2 separate double hungs. Well, on the left, the original is a pair of separate double hungs. So even within the original building, that wasn't consistent. But if you study this facade longer, and as a preservation architect, I get into these little quirks. The right-hand half of this building has numerous differences from the left-hand half.
Yes.
And if you go down to the street level, you'll see they are 2 separate bays of slightly different scale. So that could be a challenge to a contractor and a developer and say, well, wait, they're not all alike? But that's part of the fun of this building. But the primary issue is the alignment with the transoms and the continuation of the molding. So that's my 2 cents worth on it. And I've struggled with this one ever since I first saw it.
Understood.
Thank you for that, Perry. Is there any other discussion?
Is this is the same project, like the bottom, this is not what we're reviewing today, but it's in the drawings that were submitted, the entry building to the staircase that was submitted as concrete, precast concrete cladding, which is, I believe, is EFS.
So I have addressed that one as well with the contractor, and he submitted material specs for what was installed.
Okay,
And it is a precast concrete panel.
Okay, good.
I'll let him talk about that more if you want.
if it's precast, then we're good. I just was trying to make sure there wasn't a case of asking for forgiveness after approval of something else.
Does this building have historic tax credit money as part of it?
It does not.
Okay.
The unfortunate part too is that you can't even, like, none of the windows work. Like, you can't just say, okay, we'll keep the middle and get the smaller left and right. Just holistically, they all would have to change. You need the grander or the wider middle and then the narrower adjacent windows.
One quick thing, and so as you noted in the one in the bottom left, if there's a way to make the 2 doubles match the very bottom left window, just build the middle out, to make those actually simulate what's there now. That may be possible on the very bottom one, to make the 4 outside ones match the very bottom left. Now, as far as the other ones go, I don't know what the trick of that would be. I'd rather do 4 than 8.
Whether it might be possible to use the center one of the 3, because it looks fairly similar in scale to the center. The only difference may be the thickness of that divider.
Yes,
So
you're right. And so when we took those out, they were in such disrepair. There was no really, like, the sills fell out. We rebuilt all that stuff, and so at the time it was like, well, how do you want to go? So we kind of just did like you did and go, what's the whole best scenario for the whole front? what's the longest longevity, so no one's having the same problem later. So that's kind of where it went from there. It wasn't of someone going, well, this is, money wasn't, it's like,
You weren't
'cause for me,
taking
it's no either way. It's
It
just,
wasn't shortcuts
yeah,
necessarily.
because, like I said, the first go round, we were ready, but then that wasn't right either, so.
The-
But we could, that's an option too, just to build, do what we can to assimilate what's there.
Right, that would be our goal, and maybe you come back and submit your proposal to remedy it.
Right.
And we get to look at it again in that regard. I hate slowing things down. The other issue, of course, is that if we put a lot of work into reviewing these things, and you all put a lot of work into bringing them to us. And if we have something that we have approved and then it's executed and it is not what was approved, I think it would set a bad precedent to go back and say, well, that's okay.
Well, right. We
Because
don't
then you
wanna
could
do that,
get people
obviously.
bringing things through,
Oh,
and
yeah.
once they get it through, they think, now we can go do whatever we want to, which is not what I think you did. But I'm looking for a way to remedy it that solves both our,
My question too then, is, I'm sure this is probably something on his mind and everybody else's mind, and that's something we can jump on right away. Is there any levity towards the people that need to move in as doing something like, okay, we can TCO, something like that, so we can get those people in? Because some people are displaced now that they, not knowing. It came up so late, if I had, I didn't reckon, if I'd have recognized it even 2 months ago, it'd been.
So that's the certificate of occupancy issue is something that would be worked out with the building codes department of plans review and inspections. I'm not gonna ask Mark to answer for that one.
No, I just didn't. I'm just kind of, people were asking me, so I'm trying to play, what I can do the best to get everybody happy.
And as, we talked about this before, I am happy to facilitate that conversation with you guys. If that's the route that the board goes, I will definitely assist in that.
And I can go, if that's the case then, as far as if there were to see what it looks like, I can go ahead and get up there and give you a plan of what my plan of attack is to make it look the same or work and see if that approves with everybody.
you might not have to replace all of the windows.
Right.
Just some of them.
Yeah, because then the outside kind of looks, well, it's 5 against 1, the bottom right one, but, I don't know that we can do anything down there.
Well, in terms of the certificate of occupancy, I can see this having some similarity to the previous project we just reviewed.
Yeah.
You're replacing a window in an existing unit.
It's not that simple.
A way to look at it.
As far as that's what a homeowner will say, but for, hey, we just placed the windows, no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. And it matters to me as much as it matters to you all too. Because I'll say, well, hey, I did the project. Well, you're the guy that screwed the whole building up. I don't want to do that either. So that's my 2 cents worth. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Well, if someone said, fix this, what would you do? And I'm,
On those on the left sides. So on the left side, you'll see, and you can see it now, and that's a very good picture on the one above the bottom left. So basically, you would just fatten up the middle, so to speak, because the window's going to you have so much sight line of glass, so you have up to the edge of that wood to kind of build something that's similar to the bottom one. If the bottom left one has it, the top, there's a way, a will and a way to surely make it work without taking them all out.
Behind the.
Yeah, so we'd add wood to the middle and just make it, first of all, you run your first piece down the middle, and then decide what you would do to fill the sides in without obstructing the window and the use of the window. Because they all have limiters anyway, they all have 4-inch limiters in them, so no one can really use them anyway, in those sets anyway.
that's what I was gonna say. It sounds like what you're putting up is almost a facade over the center mullion, and that's gonna, it would impede the operation, but you're saying there's limiters on it.
Because only the bottom ones are open.
So single hung basically.
Because with the limiters, there's no point for the top to work, right?
And if
The
you
bottom
took,
ones are single hung too, they're the
You're
original
never
bottom.
gonna drop the top sash.
You'll fall out the window,
but like I'm gonna think through it. So if we're looking at the bottom left one and we're trying to think of the guy right above it,
Right.
you can't achieve the same thickness on the side jambs and in the center mullion with those existing window sizes, unless you put basically a facade trim or if like a faux piece in front of that, and from the side I could look up and see the it looked like a repair for something that should be brand new and
It would
correct.
have to be like you said. It had to be a situation where you're not looking like this, so to speak. So you're looking at the backside of some junk. So that one, you know, I would just have to get up there and see what the dimensions of everything are and see how close we can get it to working now. If we get it, if there's visually, if you can get it within, say, 1/8 of an inch, is what's the variance to that, you know? We need it exactly, we need it from the 1/8 of an inch from 30 foot down the ground. Does it matter? I mean, I know it all matters, but before we tear all the whole building apart, is there a certain variance we could have with that? Probably not.
Well, what I'm seeing is, again, talking about that window unit, if you go anywhere, take those windows, what you have, and just shift them left and right, you're gonna start to make the side jambs super thin, which is then gonna start to compromise what's above them too.
Are you talking about the four ones or the
Yes,
triples? Okay.
the four. If I'm looking at the bottom left on this screen,
Right.
the one that's the problem is right above it. And if I was gonna go up there, take all the molding, everything off, take all the windows out, the bucking, all of that, you take all the bucking off the right and left side, and you can slam them up against it, you now have an issue that you've got them slammed up with a really thin sight line on the right side and left side of that. Brick, yes, you can get the center thickness correct, but you can't get the right, because inherently the window's just too big.
It's really the continuity of trim from the transoms
Yes.
down.
That's what I was gonna say, Perry, is that even if you get it side to side in pure elevation, right, you still don't have the depth that's accurate.
This way,
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we'll build it out, right?
Well, no, I think what you're getting at is we can't build out in front of that. That's not gonna satisfy what you're looking for. So in order to replicate what's on the second floor, which is what it sounds like you're requiring, what we're gonna have to do is remove all of those windows. All those windows will have to be taken out and replaced with new windows. So we'll have to order new windows and rebuild all of those 12 sections.
Another thought, though, I've seen, and this isn't a plug for them, because I don't know what they actually do to do it, but you watch companies like Window World, they always say that they can go into your existing window frame, take out the glazing, and they pop in. That's why you see all the windows in my neighborhood of Oakwood. They just get smaller and smaller because it's just replacement into existing frame into existing frame into existing frame. But for your situation, if there was any potential of, like, what if you called up Geldman and said, hey, I busted out the bottom glass? They'd come replace the glazing. So is there a way to only take the glazing out, leave the frame, buck out the frame that much further to get the thickness you need, and then replace only the glazing and not the full? That way they would be not operable at all. I'm thinking like a solid piece at that point.
Well, then there's warranty issues related to that too, and
I'm
egress
making
issues.
this up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Is there an opportunity to be non-operable?
Depends on if they're egress windows or
that's
not.
a good point.
So that's what you're doing at first.
The second and fifth floor are not operational. I guess the other, I don't wanna, Lindsay, you tell me if I'm going down the wrong road, all right? Because we've already talked about this. So, the other option is we have all those panes of glass that match up with what was there before. Meaning we have insulated glass. That our intent was to basically, if you look at the second floor, that the third and fourth floor looked just like that before, except they were in rougher shape. And our intent was to rebuild the frames that were actually there and just put insulated glass in each one of those sections. Another option would be for us to go back and rebuild what's there with the insulated glass that we have that would match what was there originally.
Someone who builds sashes.
What's that?
If you have someone who hand builds sashes.
We can hand build sashes, yeah. I mean, those are all true, those are all possibilities, so, I think our approach was to use a manufactured window, and looking back, the way it should have been done was for us to build the frames back out and put those double hungs inside new frames, but that's likely what we're gonna have, one way or the other, it sounds like what you're gonna require of us to do is fix those, so we've gotta figure out the best way to do that.
Same with the double hungs that are in the right bay. That's the real distinguishing feature between the right half of the building and the left half. Is the left half on the smaller windows, they're double, pairs of double hungs on the right, they're two big double hungs.
It'll probably excite you to hear this, that everything in this building was like that.
One side to the
Inside and outside,
other.
Everything was different, so I'm sure a gentleman like yourself would enjoy that. But yes, so on the second, or the third and the fourth floors, those far right, the south windows, those would be single windows.
Single double
with
hungs, yeah.
With a,
Big ones.
yeah, I got you.
2 over 2.
One thing I'd hate to see though, and this is a somewhat of an aside, but all of those windows get thrown away, that could be used. It's just completely wasteful. So I was about to say, they need to be, that's not a requirement that we can make, but they need to be donated somewhere that can be used if they are to be replaced.
Well, this is separate from Cameron's comment, but you can get manufacturers to make custom windows that meet historic standards. That's something we do all the time. So I don't think it has to be one person in his shop making sashes for the next 10 years.
Well, I understand, and I think it's just so we're clear, I think as I said, our mistake was taking that drawing and scaling off of it, because it doesn't have all those details, and we should have paid attention to that.
Well, I was going to ask, is that drawing that you scaled from the permitted set? Or was that a pricing set or something?
It is it's the permitted drawing.
Just looks like, it does look like what was up there as far as interpreting it. I mean, I interpreted it wrong and should have had
Right, that's right.
another internal question to that.
It does not have all the detail that it does not have all the detail that you all are talking about, so that's,
But isn't a window manufacturer, whether you could tell them it's 6 feet and 2 3/4, but they're supposed to come out and measure the opening. Did your Geldman rep come out and actually measure on site for you all?
we just took everything that was in there out and we gave them those dimensions. They measured the openings, but we took everything out. So instead of having your,
Anything to measure to.
right, it was just the full.
It was just masonry opening,
Well,
not.
when I
okay.
started taking the old windows out, the whole thing just fell out on the floor. And
Even the
that-
transoms?
And we had to brace everything extremely well, just all the stained glass wouldn't fall on the street.
So you prop the transoms up.
Yeah, so we did, we had to screw to it and bolt it to the wall.
But that means the transoms were there to be able to get a center line of where the new windows should have met up with. That's what I'm saying. The window rep or whoever came out there, if you guys had just said, we need them to center on that, I'm trying to place blame for you on your window installer.
Yeah, they're not here with us today, unfortunately.
But you can go ask them for a check to fix it.
Who's got errors and omissions? One thing in that regard, I know that I was instructed to do at some architecture firms I have worked for, was you put on the drawing, do not scale drawings. There was a reason for that. I now understand.
I guess it's not, it's a playbook back, back down the Yellow Brick Road, trying to figure it out.
I have a question about the trim itself. On their historic trim that's still there, does it have a profile to it, or is it flat stock that's just layered up?
It's like a brick mold. I mean, it's
Okay.
been kind of, over the years, been patched and placed, and,
Yeah.
they're all, the originals were
Lumpy.
weighted windows, and they were all they were just a mess.
You'll notice another right-left peculiarity on the triple window. The one on the right has these protruding, almost dental molds over the top, and the one on the left has rosettes. So it's just these subtle little quirks on one side to the other.
And I will say, we did, so that in the previous approval, Brian spoke to this, the application had included fixed windows, and the design review board, the staff and the design review board recommendation was to install double hung windows based on like the original operation. So I will offer credit that you guys did kind of include that in an initial proposal. But that was also different applicants who are not here either.
To me, the contributing windows are the arched windows. And so if we were the other ones, since the square windows was somewhat randomized historically, just fixing the arched windows may solve the issue.
think all the arches are still original and properly treated and restored. It really is just the double hung sections, and the historic character is the continuity of the trim.
And I will say, when we took those out, we did add, lintels to the bottom to keep those upper parts more stable and secure, because it was, you know, that brick, you know how that built, I mean, it's dust in the wind sometimes, so. They're definitely more stable than they were, so we can remove those without a worry of the glass falling out in the street and that kind of stuff. That's need be, so. I think how we would do it too is just schedule in, okay, if we're doing, say we're doing 4 hypothetically, this is your window week, go, you know, if some Airbnbs or whatever they're doing with them, that week we'll just take a few days to fix it in and out. I mean, we should be able to do it in a day or 2 to get it all patched in. And yeah, I wouldn't tear the whole thing up at once, but there's a lot to go on. You got street protection, you got lifts, you got permits for all that stuff, right?
Do we have a motion?
I'll try to formulate something here. I think the motion is to require the reworking, make that vague, of the windows to match the original approved COA that provides the continuity of trim from the transoms vertically and the continuity of operation on the single double hungs to the right and the paired double hungs to the left. And I suppose add to that, bring to staff for final approval.
Well, I would say too, like, does something need to be like a playbook? Do I just interpret it myself and say, this is what I think? I don't know if because I can build anything, I mean, what I know is right.
I think Lindsay's your playbook.
Yes, which is great. I just need, you know, just a roadmap. I mean, well,
Yes.
maybe we can reconvene on that. I don't know, but.
And so I would just go back to Perry. You had highlighted to reflect the continuity of trim on the transoms, and what else?
The operation.
An operation, so that the ones to the right are the single double hungs and the ones to the left are the paired double hungs as they were originally.
As far as direction for you guys, is the architect still involved in this project?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that would be the best person to help with this.
I second Perry's motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, motion carries.
And just to clarify for y'all, so that motion means that you will work with staff for the approval and you won't come back in front of the board.
Does it mean just come to your office?
Yes, so we can talk, I'll follow up with you guys and we can talk about that. And I also would listen to our chair's suggestion that maybe you guys could also kind of circle back with the architect as well.
Sure. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Reluctant rejection.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Next up is 8E24DT at 714 South Gay Street.
Okay, this is an illuminated wall sign and vinyl window graphics. The wall sign is proposed for the metal beam area. It has internally illuminated white acrylic letters fixed on a metal raceway that will be painted to match that metal beam. There are 2 signage options with varying text. The size and placement is relatively the same, but the applicant had 2 options of signage text. And then there are window graphics that are digitally printed perforated window graphics. So this is not listed on the NRHP, so the historic resources section of the guidelines does not apply. The sign forms do meet the design guidelines for recommended signs. Internal illumination is often discouraged by the board. However, at the adjacent property at 17 South Gay Street, the board has approved a very similar sign that had internally illuminated white acrylic letters as well, based on this not being in the historic resources, subject to the historic resources section of the guidelines. Measurements for the window signs should be provided to staff. A revised drawing should meet the guidelines that recommend less than 30% coverage. And the design guidelines also recommend that windows at the pedestrian level be transparent glass. Screening should not be installed as part of the window graphics that block the windows. So staff is recommending approval of 8E 24DT subject to the condition, and that leaves it open-ended for the text. That seems like that's not really our purview. Subject to the condition that revised drawings for the window signs be submitted to staff, limiting that sign area to less than 30% coverage of the window and omitting opaque screening on the windows.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Good day, all. Micah Andrews, 7114 Regal Lane, manager of Tennessee Sign Company.
Great, thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
No, other than I came through this project late in the game. I just started with them a little over a month ago. And there is 2 designs, but the customer has chosen one in particular. So the 2 options were in his original paperwork. That wouldn't be a problem to get those items changed. I've worked with other downtown areas before. They're a lot more hardcore than this group. And we're not in the design area to replicate neon and those kinds of things. So that made me feel a lot better when I heard that.
Thank you. Board discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. The vinyl where it looks like where you want them to go, currently there's very bright lights that say open and THC Delta 8, and they're really bright on both windows. Will those go away or be used somewhere else in the windows?
I don't have that answer. Our portion of the work was only for the graphics on the window, not for his signage inside. So he must have had that previously. I can find out, but I don't have an answer for that at this juncture.
And can that be considered signage? I mean, they're massive and they're bright and they very much characterize what we see on the street.
Yes, so the design, I'll let the zoning chief speak to the signage aspect of that. The design review board has the purview to review window signs, and because we have guidelines for window signs. Whether or not they need a city sign permit is not, I'll kind of defer to Mark on that one. They have not gotten some permits for those that are currently installed.
Yeah, so the neon signs that are in the window, they're considered a window sign, and they wouldn't need a permit. However, per Article 13.2D, signs with flashing, chasing, pulsating, twinkling, dancing, and/or oscillating lights or emitting or light-emitting diodes, or with any other rotating, revolving, or moving part, except for a documented historic or reproduction sign located in any H overlay district, and such sign has received a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Zoning Commission, or an approved sign within the DK district, and such sign has received a certificate of appropriateness from the Downtown Design Review Board, so they would need to be approved per COA.
I don't think I've seen them blinking at all, but they're very, very bright.
So my understanding looking at these straight would be if they're proposing something that's covering the whole windows, then maybe they'd be moved inside, but that's a assumption.
I do think this is 2 separate issues. We have an enforcement issue about signage that's existing and whether or not it meets the ordinance, and then we have our DRB purview, which is just what's in front of us today. So I want to make that distinction.
I have a question about the front lit letter, the front lit channel letter. Where is the wire going to be? Do you know when it's installed? Is the wire going to be showing? Is it going to be tucked away?
It'll be inside of a raceway or a wireway.
Okay.
So there'll be a square, small box essentially that runs the length of the sign.
Okay.
All wiring and transformers inside with just primary from the building coming out.
Fantastic.
And for the record, I'm a sign guy, but I hate those bright window signs too.
We've gotten some feedback about those recently.
Well, where I'm from, they always count against your square footage of allowable sign. So I learned to hate them.
Do we have any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
Real quick, does the opaque backing count as part of the percentage? That's,
Good question.
I would say in this case, I don't know. I guess that's up to the board's interpretation. I would think that the sign itself, that's the advertisement for the business in, would be this area. So there's kind of two things, limiting this to 30% of the window area and then omitting something that's opaque.
In this case, it's a little bit complicated because the interior of that building is currently so incredibly bright that screening it might be nice. However, our guidelines say that we want transparency on the street level and to promote the pedestrian experience. So I think that should be considered and discussed. Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of it, right? Like, because we can't have opaque sections on the street front.
We could use a perforated material similar to the gentleman showed earlier. So you'd have a more of a translucent look to it.
No, the point of the transparency at the street level is so that people can see into the building and people can see out and see what's going on. If you're going to have a business on the street, it needs to be engaging the street. So otherwise, you can put it in an alley or something. But that's not really what we want. But having an opaque area was just not acceptable, or something even that obscures the view such that you can't tell if there's something really going on.
Would it work if they were lowered? Or is it the exact position or just the material in general is?
No, I'm saying it's the back of it. I just wanted to make sure that was kept as something that was not allowed.
Opaque material?
The black back of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we were to make that of a translucent material, would that work, or do I need to resubmit the?
It needs to be transparent.
Visibly seen through, because we use materials that are transmit light, but some that don't, translucent and opaque. So that's my mindset when I hear opaque versus translucent.
And at least the intent of the staff report would just be omitting all of this blue stuff. So the windows, this is the sign, the logo here, and then omitting the blue area is what is covered in the staff recommendation.
I see what you're saying now. I wasn't following. That wouldn't be a problem to re-show those as basically a vinyl application, not a digital print.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be single color.
I think we're still confused. So what I'm seeing is black around the marble.
Those right
is that
there.
Is that opaque?
That is just for reference of the graphics. Right now, they're regular windows. I think that was construction happening during that time.
Okay, so
they
you're
had
not
the
going
windows
to black out the window?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's Photoshop. No, all we're looking for is that marble logo. The behind that, I'm pretty sure they're open. I've gone by that location and looked in it. It looks like a normal business with windshield.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We've had that presented before where they're like, we're going to black out our windows. So, yeah,
I'm
the sign's
glad you
fine.
brought it up. It gives me something to give back to my design crew and say no.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps clarify. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve per staff recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to transition into our infill housing portion of the program. Next up is 8B24IH at 1809 Worth Street.
Okay, this is a new driveway. It's 12 feet wide by 53 feet long. This is the revised site plan that was revised due to city engineering standards in time for the meeting. It The driveway is required as the property owner is constructing a new rear addition that is not visible from the primary street. They are required to add parking for compliance with off-street parking requirements. So new driveways and parking pads that meet the guidelines can be approved administratively, but one in the front yard that doesn't meet the guidelines has to be approved by the board. The applicant has to provide 2 off-street parking spaces for a single-family house, coming into compliance with the code as they construct a rear addition that won't be visible from the primary street. The house is an outlier on the block, as you can see in these aerial views. It is set 60 feet from the front property line, and there's not an alley on the property. It backs up to the rail line. The lot does not have enough land on either side of the house. It's 5.9 feet and 5 feet, 5.9 feet and 8 feet 9 inches on the right. And so it doesn't have enough land on either side of the house to accommodate a driveway that meets the design guidelines. And it does achieve the guideline of advising the access be limited to 1 lane. So staff, recognizing the conditions of the property in the house, staff recommends approval of 8B 24IH as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Todd Kennedy, and I am here on behalf of the owner. I became involved with this project in July when the owner received a stop work order for unpermitted work. And of course, through the process of permitting, came for approval for the driveway. I don't think the owner was planning to do a driveway, but of course we found out that was required. And as Lindsay said, due to the constraints of the side yards, there's just no way to make the driveway work beyond the front facade wall, obviously. And as Lindsay said, this is an outlier. It's pretty far back. It's kind of a strange home. I don't know if you have a street view of it or not, but anyways, my suggestion was to just have a concrete driveway, but the owner wants to do a concrete apron at the street and then extend beyond the property line to meet the zoning ordinance and then go gravel from there. That's the option she has chosen. So as you can see, there's kind of it's not really a curb cut, but there's, people have been parking in the front yard there for quite some time.
Just for the record, can you give us your address, please?
Sure. I actually live in Lenore City, so my address is 608 West 7th Avenue, Lenore City, 37771.
Thank you very much.
I'm just working as a independent contractor for the homeowner.
Great, thank you for that. Do we have any discussion?
Would there be any, if we're requiring them to have a driveway, is it then gonna trigger, they need to have a walkway from the driveway to their house as well?
So the city zoning code is requiring them to have a driveway. The design guidelines that recommend a walkway from the street to the new house are typically applied to new construction of new houses. So I don't know that.
Right.
And where there's existing sidewalks, sometimes we require them. There's no sidewalk on this street either. I like the idea of her doing it in gravel. I don't know if this is her thought, but mine is she doesn't really want a driveway and the grass will grow back through it.
Yeah, my suggestion was just concrete, just because I like it, but she wants to save money. I suggested a sidewalk from the front porch to the driveway. She was not interested in that. She said she would put stepping stones.
That's a sidewalk.
So,
I guess it's just these neighborhoods, as you can see from just looking at the street view, they're a hodgepodge of investment or lack thereof, because based on people's means. And I mean, like Perry's statement, just letting the grass go back through it. I hope that actually doesn't happen, because then it's going to look trashy. Like, it's not going to look, I don't know, it's landscape timbers and gravel. I think landscape timbers are good, and edging that's going to keep it from washing out. I guess that's the best. And the concrete apron will also tidy it up to make sure that it doesn't spread any of the gravel into the street.
yeah, I think Linda Perucci with the engineering department provided the requirements for this in the initial plans review, which was denied. And so that the concrete apron in the right-of-way is a requirement by city ordinance, and then the 5 feet beyond. And of according to her, we could use clean gravel, not crusher run, and then it would have to be bound by some kind of edging to prevent erosion, so.
Yeah, I thought engineering.
It's not my
required-
favorite project, I'm just helping the lady get the permit.
And I thought engineering required some containment, like landscape timbers, cross
Right.
ties, just
Yeah.
something that keeps it from spreading.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion
thank
carries.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay, next up, we have 8C 24IH, which is at 3201 Johnston Street.
Okay, this is a new primary structure fronting Johnston Street. It is a 1.5-story residence that has a front gable roof with a 5/12 pitch. There's a smaller front gable roof massing projecting from the left half, and then a 4-foot 6-inch deep porch recessed under that primary roof slope. On the right half of the facade, the house currently is proposed for an exterior. Actually, the specifications refer to a horizontal cement siding. That's not the Dutch lap, so I'll clarify that one on my own. The house is 30 feet wide by 60 feet 4 inches deep, and it'll be set 23.6 from the front property line. Parking is located to the rear and access from the alley. We can see the elevations here, and I'll run through some of the findings. The front setback will be consistent with the block. The site plan includes a walkway to the street. Just as a note, this property is zoned CN, which is a neighborhood commercial. It doesn't have minimum interior side setbacks unless abutting a residential district. There is a 15-foot corner side setback requirement. The proposed side setbacks are compatible with the context of the block. All of the houses, as you can see, are all very much on these side property lines. The design review board can approve these side setbacks, provided they are in line with the design guidelines. Final approval will be subject to city engineering and building codes review. Minor modifications to the site plan could be approved by staff. The house is proportional to the dimensions of the lot in the context of the block. The drawings show a slab foundation, which doesn't reflect the context of the block, where the houses are elevated by 1 to 2 foot tall foundations. So the final design should incorporate that. The guidelines also recommend a front porch that's 8 to 12 feet deep. This one is 4 feet 6 inches, and it should be increased in depth to meet the guidelines. The guidelines also recommend windows and door styles to be similar to houses on the block, with similar placement and ratio of solid to void. There are no windows on the left side elevation, which fronts High School Avenue, which is a pretty busy street, very prominent, so windows should be added to this left elevation. The windows, the roof pitch, also there are transparency requirements in the CN zone. They could be waived by the DRB via issuance of this COA, but the window placement should meet the design guidelines. The roof pitch should be elevated to 6/12 at least to be compatible. And then there was a guideline about that board and batten, but I do see the specification for horizontal lap siding. So staff's recommending approval of 8C 24IH, subject to the final site plan meeting engineering standards and the requirements of plans review and inspections. Foundation height be comparable to the block. The front porch be revised to meet the guidelines. Left windows be added to the left side elevation, and the roof pitch be elevated to at least 6/12, with final drawings to reflect these conditions and submitted to staff for approval prior to permitting.
Thank you, Lindsay. Are you the applicant? Can you give us your name and address, please?
Lopez, 1326 West Baxter Avenue.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
Not really. I can fix all that.
Okay, you're okay with all those comments?
Yeah, the foundation is probably gonna be like 2 courses out the ground, so I have to do blocks anyways.
Okay. And what we've seen on previous projects is when you raise the bottom like that, then we introduce steps to the front porch and redesign of the front porch.
Yeah.
So do we have any further discussion?
It looks like there's a 4-foot grade difference from the back corner. What is that, back northwest corner to the southeast corner? So is the intent to raise the ground floor and above that back corner area, or how are you gonna have steps up to the back porch and the front porch?
Yes, front porch will have some steps. the other houses all on that road kind of have steps too, just because of the grade. And I think the back porch is pretty decent. It'll probably be like a step or two at the most. It's like, it's pretty flat, like compared to like other lots that I've dealt with. So it's not too bad. If that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
This is more of a code observation, just to keep you alert so you don't get yourself caught.
Yes.
I believe in the situation what you're calling the right side of the building, you'll need a 1 hour wall because you're less than 5 feet from the property line. So just keep that in mind. I don't want you to build it and then have to rebuild it.
I definitely don't want to do that. You said the right side where it's okay, yeah, 5 feet. Yeah, there's like some like KB stuff on that other side. So I had to call them to see how far away I have to be. So that's just based on, I guess, what they told me, which is like 10.5 feet, something like that. So I just went based off of that. But I could fix. I'll actually check with them and see what they say.
Okay.
If you can move it away from the other structure at least 5 feet, then that would, and still have your KUB easement, then
Okay.
you would avoid that problem.
To your point, Josh, if it's about fire separation, then the windows we're asking them to introduce into that facade would have to be treated as well, right?
I may have said the wrong side.
No, you were right.
The blank side's
No, well, which one? The left side that's so close to the property line.
Right, well, either way, either one that's gonna have windows, if it's too close and it's required to be a 1 hour wall, the windows then fall into that address.
Josh, you were right. This is the one that would be close to the property line.
okay.
And this is the elevation fronting high school. So that was correct, yeah.
Okay.
But either way, there are openings on both sides.
Correct,
and-
that's all I'm saying, is when you have that discussion, to Josh's point, it would affect the windows as well, which starts to increase the complication of it, so about them having to be rated. So that distance from the adjacent property is important, so figure out what that is, the adjacent building you're building next to.
Okay.
My first interpretation was that the blank wall was the interior
so
wall, and that's the reason it's blank.
No.
It's because you're
Because
too
of
close to
how the
property.
rooms are inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that used to be where is it at? That used to be a garage, and that got turned into a bedroom, and then the other ones, I think it's like a bedroom right there, a bedroom right there. So like the windows are just, I guess, weird. But
It seems like it would be better if you mirrored the plan almost, so that your windows.
I'm gonna talk to the architect to just flip it, because I feel like that's the easiest way to really kind of deal with it. And I think that should be good if it's flipped. Yeah, most of the windows are on that side, but you just look into the next house. So I'll just see if we can just flop it.
Lindsay, on your recommendation, was it to bring it back to you with revisions? Okay.
It would just be the final drawings reflecting the various conditions submitted to staff before permitting.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I would move to accept with staff recommendations and with the option to flip the design to address the interior lot fire separation issue.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I have one question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
On the siding, I think you guys said clad, but I think I'm using vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's siding that is supported by these design guidelines.
Okay.
I think what I was saying is that you had already clarified here that it wasn't vertical, it was gonna be a horizontal
Yeah, it's
siding.
horizontal, and it's not like the butt out one. It's
Okay.
like the smooth one.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for clarifying. So we have a motion, a second, all in favor, we did that one. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion carries, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, last up, we have 8E24IH at 1336 Delaware Avenue.
Okay, Okay, this is a new townhouse building that's proposed to be fronting Bragg Street. It has 4 units. It's proposed to be set 10 feet from the front property line on Bragg Street and 15 from Delaware Avenue. That's the left side setback. It has 4 separate units. It's 25 feet deep. Parking is proposed to be accessed from the alley and located to the right side of the building. The building is proposed to be 2 stories tall. It has a 6/12 pitch side gable roof. The roof will be clad in asphalt shingles. There's stucco on the ground floor with vinyl siding on the second story. There are no windows on the left side elevation fronting Delaware Street, and then the rear elevation has some secondary entries. So this is a project where the applicant is intending to use the middle housing standards. That review occurs separately through planning staff, but the DRB review focuses on how the project meets the infill housing design guidelines. To accommodate 4 units, the applicant is intending to readdress this to front Bragg Street. The proposed front setback is appropriate for the context. It meets the middle housing requirements as well. At 15 feet, this left side setback will be slightly closer to Delaware Avenue than the other houses on the block, but it will meet the required corner side setback. The guidelines for multi-unit housing recommend that new multifamily buildings be designed in scale and context with the architectural features of the neighborhood. This property is a corner lot. It has frontage on 2 streets. The surrounding blocks have 1-story and 1.5-story Queen Anne cottages, craftsman's and infill construction. They have projecting front gable massing, steeply pitched roofs, porches. The building doesn't incorporate many of those details. There are front gable roof stoops projecting over the doors, but the building does not use any other, this is a quote from the guidelines, bays or breaks in the front facade that continue the architectural rhythm of the block. The guidelines also recommend that the individual units be divided into separate sections that are proportionately similar to original houses on the block. This Delaware Street elevation is blank. It doesn't have any windows or doors or design elements. This doesn't meet either the middle housing standards or the infill housing guidelines. The intent is to avoid blank walls using porches or bays, windows, breaks in elevation. The design should be revised to provide further engagement on the Delaware Street elevation and also meet the principal use standards for townhouses, which have transparency requirements. The guidelines recommend windows and doors be similar to historic houses on the block. The square slider windows are not compatible window types with the context. There's not sufficient transparency on these elevations. The proposed flush doors are also not compatible with the historic context, so a revised design should incorporate more windows, including double hung forms and new windows along Delaware Street, and the doors should be revised to incorporate transparency. At least a 6/12 pitch roof is required in the middle housing standards to classify as steep. It's also the minimum pitch typically approved based on infill, so the applicant should confirm that roof pitch and variations in roof line may be an additional tactic to differentiate the units and break up that massing. So the staff recommendation is to postpone 8E24IH, allowing the applicant to provide a revised set of drawings to address the design to incorporate some sort of bays, breaks, or additional complexity in the front facade to differentiate the units, additional engagement with the street on the Delaware elevation, and then revisions to the windows and door types and window placement, increasing transparency on both street-facing elevations.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant on Zoom?
I believe so.
Okay. Can you hear us on Zoom?
Yeah, I can hear you over here. Thanks so much, everyone. I'm sorry I wasn't able to join you over there today. I'm out of town today. So my name is Sean of 2426 Highland Drive in Knoxville, the contractor. I'm representing one of the owners. The contractor wasn't able to make it today.
Thank you for joining us. Do you have any comments related to Lindsay's report?
No, I think we'll definitely go back and update those windows to make sure we have all those double hung windows over there, and then find a way to kind of break everything so that we have an idea of each of the units. Then the only thing I want to clarify over there is the second point that says additional articulation and engagement with the block on the Delaware. So on the Delaware side, I'm thinking double hung window on the unit number 1 over there at the top and at the bottom. And then we have the same thing on unit number 4 on the other side. So I just want to know if that will satisfy what the transparency we're talking about on the Delaware side.
Does the board want to comment on that? I believe you suggested that you would have 2 double hung windows on either side and they would stack to provide more transparency on those blank walls. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And you just want some assurance that that would be appropriate.
Right, because we don't want to leave that wall blank.
Right.
So we're just looking for a way. We don't want to put, I mean, we can put a door, but there's some thinking window at the top and the window also on the lower floor as well, on both ends.
Yes, I think that would satisfy that requirement.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion?
I had a couple of other concerns that he might want to look into. One is when you redesign the windows, look at the rhythm of the windows and whether the upper and lower is a line or if there's some pattern to them that makes a little more sense than what we're seeing here. But when you shift to double hungs, these windows don't appear large enough to meet the egress requirements of the International Building Code. So be sure and check for that scale on your window replacements. And my other is an engineering question on the site plan. It appears they're proposing to use the alley as their driveway and pull in off the alley and back out into the alley, and I'm not sure how that is addressed.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit because that's part of the middle housing standards. So there is a specific element in the middle housing parking standards that allows people to back out into the alley. Okay. However, there will most likely be revisions required because they are required typically to make the spaces at an angle so that they back out at the angle that the one-way alley is supposed to go in. So when we do the middle housing review as well, we coordinate with plans review and engineering to make sure they get those comments too.
Okay, I was once told that alleys run one way away from the center of town. Huh. So I don't know if that's still a planning standard or that was one Annette Anderson had passed on to me many years ago.
What if they go the other?
Lindsay, can you pull up the streetscape?
So this is the lot. This is the side though. Would you like to see Delaware or Bragg?
Delaware, look the other way.
The other way?
As I'm looking down the street, I'm seeing a kind of rich texture of housing that has detail, proper proportion, and thoughtfulness about how these buildings interact with the neighborhood, and I'm not really seeing that in this application. And I think listening to and following the standards for the infill housing guidelines will help the applicant do that. And actually looking around the neighborhood and trying to make something that is a positive addition will make a sustainable product that will be a long-term asset for the applicant.
I think that's a very good point. We'll make sure we'll put that a lot of thought into that and put that into consideration on the updated plan.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I would move to postpone and see what he brings back and encouraging, middle housing, I think is our new challenge here. So motion to postpone.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you for joining
Thanks
us.
so much,
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks so much, everyone.
I'll follow
Sure.
up with you.
I appreciate you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
And I did miss my opportunity to introduce Tony Allen, our new board member, and I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to say hello and thank you for joining us. Any other business? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.